What's going on, everybody? My name is Mason Folz, and I'd like to welcome you back to the 2023 NFL Winners and Whiners preview show. It's finally week 11. Week 10 was a blast. Kickers showed that they were people too, as we had a ton of close games. You could have been on the right side, could have been on the wrong side, but most importantly, this week, we're going to get it right. We're going to get it rolling, and we're all going to look to cash in. Week 11, got some more interesting games. We got some higher totals, and we got some higher spreads or sides. So check those out, and we'll be looking at them today. We're getting ready to rock and roll. Luckily, I have my three favorite cappers with me today, my boys. I'd like to introduce my co-host, Scott the Steamroller Steehn first. Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I want to dispel all the rumors right now that Reichel and I are not in the same location. Of course we are. Reichel, give me a high five. Give me a high five right there, buddy. No, you got to go to the other side.
Wrong way. Sorry.
We should have rehearsed that. Damn it.
Yeah.
I'm doing good. Doing good, Mason. Another exciting week in the NFL. You know, it seems like every time I'm capping these games, I'm like, oh, there's a terrible game. Oh, Jesus, there's another terrible game. So, yes, we have once again, a plethora, if you will, of terrible games. It seems like a lot of terrible games early. They kind of want to get those out of the way before people get back from brunch, from church, and start actually watching the games. So, you know what? It's football, and it's better than not having football. I'm excited to talk about it with three of my favorite people. This is kind of like throwback for all of the people that have been watching us for a while. This iteration, minus the kid, we did quite a few shows together. So it's good to be back. It's good to be talking football and not have to bullshit my way through NASCAR. So, although those were always the most.
We had a good time doing that. You know,
those were good. Those were good times for sure.
Those were the best times because we really had like no fucking idea what we talk about. We do like research for an hour before the show, and then you'd look up the site where they showed the finishes over their career and shit, and then you'd get on and talk like an expert, and then every once in a while you'd win a bet, look like a hero. I know Reichel hit a couple on the head. So it's nice to be here, and it's nice to not have to talk about automobiles. Allie hit me up last night, by the way. Said she was going to the Vegas Grand Prix. Asked me who I liked. Like, well, Verstappen has run 17 of 20 races. It's kind of hard to go away. She goes, well, I was thinking about the field. I'm like, of course you were. But
yeah, sure.
The field
take the 15% chance of winning.
Dude, the field is plus 225. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And Verstappen, you're only laying 275 with Verstappen. Again, a guy who's won 85% of the races.
Can I bet the manufacturer? Just Red Bull.
You can bet the team. Their team is minus 300. I don't know what the manufacturer is, but I know the Red Bull team is minus 300. So domination.
That's awesome. And the those races are actually really fun to watch as well, as if you have the field or you have the heavy favorite. I know that
Mason, I do want to apologize for ranting on. I know I blame it on you. You made the mistake of saying, how are you? So, you know, of course, 5 minutes of fucking bullshit was going to follow. So my apology.
Hey, no apology needed.
We'll fix it in post.
But up next batter, we're going to look at one of our favorite parlay kings, Chris King. How you doing, sir?
I would have been a lot better if the game went differently last night, but, you know, that's the way things go. I guess they say, you know, at least we get the Jets next week, and they can't score any points.
Well, yeah. Well, instead of talking trash to me, I like that move. Just immediately move it on to Reichel. That's a good way. I know he'll back it up himself. He's always ready to roll, but you can find him down in the bottom right corner of our screen. He's pretty much the free pick king, I've decided. So we've been posting his free picks left and right on Twitter. He's been on fire, and he's been winning a ton of money. Mr. Scott Reichel, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, doing pretty well. Been a good run, mostly with hockey. So hopefully that keeps rolling. Looking at the football team that I root for, and I don't want to talk about it. So looking forward to the rest of the season, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. Either way, the Bills. I actually made a prediction in the second quarter that I posted in one of the group chats I'm in. I said that the Bills would lose the game, fire the offensive coordinator, and they would beat the Jets by 17 next week. So far, I got the first two right. So we're going to see what happens in the third game. But either way, point is the Jets not too good. On the bright side, they're not on primetime this week. So we all win.
Yep, I was going to ask, when is the next time they're going to be on primetime? I know they've got to be on the schedule with that Aaron Rodgers schedule they built before he got hurt.
I hope they flex him
again
out.
They did flex him out?
I said I hope they do. Look, man, even as a fan, I got better things to do on my Sunday night than watch a team's fight for one touchdown.
I agree.
Aaron Rodgers is like one of those characters in one of the like end of the world disaster movies where he's like away and he's fighting to get back. He finally gets back and you see the wide shot of the city and it's just fucking in flames. The buildings are crumbled. There's flames everywhere. That's kind of what I feel like Aaron Rodgers is going to come back.
There's one like GIF that I feel like sums it up perfectly, and it's I'm trying to remember his name. Donald Glover, like Childish Gambino, where he's holding the pizza. And he walks through the front door, and like the kitchen's on fire, everything's whatever, and he's just holding it. That's Aaron Rodgers.
Oh yeah, that's from Community.
Yeah, from Community. He just shows up, and like everything's already destroyed, but he's just there to like save the day. But there's nothing to save because everything's already like destroyed. It's kind of how I look at it.
I think Aaron Rodgers needs to be an actor because every time they go to a sideline shot of him after Wilson does something stupid, he's doing his best to hold it together and not just roll his eyes. And he does a nice job because he knows the cameras are on him. But that's got to be frustrating. You see Wilson make some of those mistakes.
As far as primetime games, the Jets, of course, have the Black Friday game next week. But then they don't play again in primetime until they face the Browns 3 days after Christmas.
And the Browns are actually decent, so they can't even flex that game. Yeah, it sucks. All
right.
They're
not going to flex the Black Friday game, so we're stuck with that. I can't remember who they're playing. Miami. Oh, okay. All right. Well,
that should be an interesting game, actually. I'm actually excited for that. First Black Friday game. It could be interesting. Speaking of our other primetime games, I think that's a nice little segue to start looking at Week 11 slate. Before we dive in, I wanted to remind all of you guys to check out the links down in the description. We've got all of our Discord links, our TikTok and Twitter links, and all of our links over to the website where you can catch our free daily articles on every single game. And my final reminder, we are recording this on Tuesday, so make sure you keep up to date on all the latest injuries and breaking news. As if anything happens, you guys have to check it out and apply it to our handicapping. But this first game we're looking at on Thursday night, we might actually have a good game for the first time this season. The Cincinnati Bengals are traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. The Ravens are 3.5-point favorites right now, and the total's set at 46. Mr. Chris King, what do you like in this one?
Well, my first question for both these teams is, who the hell are you? Because we watched the Ravens blow another lead at home. They were up big on Cleveland. I thought the game was over when it was 24-7. I'm sure that other people thought that too. And then they let Deshaun Watson look like a competent quarterback. Same thing with Cincinnati. Everybody's talked about how great Joe Burrow has been the last few weeks because he's healthy. And in the third quarter, he had less than 100 yards passing before he got hot late in the game. But they gave up 188 yards on the ground to Houston. Now, last I checked, everybody was talking about on Bill's Twitter, talking about how great Devin Singletary looked because he had 150 yards. That was Devin Singletary's one game of this year where he looked competent. I've got news for you. Baltimore likes to run the ball. If you can't stop Houston, how are you going to stop Lamar Jackson, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell, the ghost of Jamal Lewis, and anybody else that Baltimore puts in the backfield? I'm going to take the Ravens. I think they're going to run the ball all over Cincinnati. I know Cincinnati didn't have Hubbard last week, but Hendrickson is banged up now. They don't know if he's going to play. I know he hasn't practiced yet. I don't have faith in Cincinnati's run defense after getting carved up. They also couldn't stop the pass because they made C.J. Stroud watch him turn in another big game. I'm going to take the Ravens here as much as it scares me because we see them fold up at home repeatedly. We saw it happen a couple times last year. We saw it happen Sunday. But I think the Ravens will win here and cover the line. I think it'll probably end up over the total because neither one of these teams wanted to play defense last week.
Nope, I could definitely see both of those happening. How about you, Reichel? What do you think is going to happen on Thursday night?
I'm going to lean to the under, first things first, because it's a primetime game. So I'm going to go with the under. But looking at this actual matchup, I'm going to lean to Baltimore. They're the home team in the spot. They've done well against the Bengals recently, but I do think that as a whole, the Ravens are a better team. The Bengals had a big win against Buffalo, which apparently doesn't mean much, no offense, because they've been underachieving. We'll see how they look with the new offensive coordinator. But Cincinnati had a big win there, but that's not as impressive as you thought it was going to be going into the season. but they got killed. Pretty much the entire defense did against Houston. And that game was actually not that close. And then Stroud turned it over. Game suddenly got interesting. They arguably could have won with Boyd dropping that touchdown pass. But the point is the Texans were up double digits with a couple minutes left, and then suddenly the game got interesting. So I do think that the Bengals are flawed. Baltimore, they actually are who I think that they are, which is a pretty good team that's going to choke in the playoffs again because they blow fourth quarter leads 3 to 4 times a year every single time with Harbaugh and Lamar together, which is why I don't take them seriously as playoff performers ever. But the point is they're still a better team than Cincinnati. They have some injuries defensively, though, but not as many as Cincinnati. I'm going to go with Baltimore. I feel like Chris hit the nail on the head there with the run defense. If you're going to get torched by Devin Singletary, who did nothing basically all year, and you're looking at Stroud also playing well. Stroud's very good, don't get me wrong. But the point is, I do think Baltimore, I have more faith in to put together a full 60-minute effort. And Cincinnati also can't block anybody, which is going to be a problem against this pass rush. I'll take Baltimore minus a 3.5, but I do like the under in this game.
Steamroller?
So let me ask you a question here. Baltimore has a guy that carried the ball 9 times for 138 yards.
Give him the ball.
Including it. So they say, well, he busted a 60-yarder. Okay. So he carried the ball 8 times for 78 yards. Still pretty good. How many times did they give him the ball against Cleveland? Anybody want to guess? You guys know this?
He had a touchdown, but didn't he have like 2 carries?
Yeah, I know he didn't get the ball
carries.
much.
3 carries? Okay. He had a 30-something yard touchdown. Give Mitchell the ball.
He scored from 39.
What are we doing? And they fired the Bills offensive coordinator? Are you kidding me? That's
they won't fire Monken because of the fact that they just hired him.
I understand. That's just malpractice right there. Look, this is 2 games that no question have probably been 2 of the most disappointing teams in football, at least with some of the results. Ravens still playing well. Ravens still 6-3, but so much more of what could be. They're 6-3, right? Your Ravens are.
They blew fourth quarter leads.
That's right. They have another bye. Yeah, they're 7-3.
They blew fourth quarter leads at home to Deshaun Watson and Gardner Minshew.
Am
I really supposed to take him seriously as a Super Bowl contender?
And don't forget, last year they did it to Tua and they did it to Josh Allen when they were up double digits in the second half.
I'm just saying, though, like, are the Ravens actually Super Bowl contenders? Because I just don't see it.
I think they are. I think every team is down. Every team has serious flaws, certainly in the AFC. So this is a weird Cincinnati team. I'll tell you. They're 30th in yards allowed, but they're just 16th in points. And the reason for that is they're number 1 in the league in turnover margin. So they're able to generate turnovers. They're second in interceptions. Baltimore, 3rd in number of interceptions thrown. So you know what? There's going to be a couple of turnovers for this Cincy team. I think Baltimore's going to be able to move the ball at will. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. Chris touched on it earlier. This is a Cincinnati team that really just doesn't do a lot right on defense other than generate turnovers. The Bengals are going to have to throw the ball to catch up. Who wins? Fuck, I don't know. Who pisses it away in the fourth quarter? Could be either one of them. I'm going to play the over 46 here. How about that?
The big concern with Cincinnati defense is you're looking at right now, as of this earlier today, Hubbard and Hendrickson hadn't practiced. Hubbard didn't play last week. Hendrickson got hurt. So everybody was talking about how it was a cheap shot when Noah Brown or whatever rolled into him. But you're talking about those are your 2 starting defensive ends.
Yeah.
If you can't set the edge against Baltimore, they're just going to beat you into the ground.
Oh, that's 100% right. Yeah, if you can give Lamar lateral movement, it's going to be a long day for the Bengals. If I'm playing, there's no way I'm playing the Bengals in this spot. If I had to go aside, I'd definitely play Baltimore. But I think the over's the better play. I think both are going to easily hang 20, and I think Baltimore's probably going to hang 30.
Yeah, I agree. I like the over there. I'm going to take a side in this one. I'm going to go with the Ravens minus 3.5, as Chris took the words right out of my mouth. With Hubbard being not practicing and possibly not on the field, I think the Bengals are going to struggle to stop the run, and we all know that Baltimore can move the rock on the ground. So I think they're going to be snapped back into shape after blowing that lead to the Browns last week. They're going to show up at home motivated. I think the Ravens are going to cover that 3.5-point spread.
If you want a bonus prop, I like Keaton over yards. I think they're going to give him the ball a lot. I mean, a lot for him. I think he probably gets 7, 8 carries.
I thought you were going to say 15.
No,
he might still have a lot of mouths to feed.
But. Right.
Yeah, but Gus Edwards did nothing. He ran the ball 11 times for 24 yards. I mean, if you got a guy like Scott said, he ran for 130 some yards on 9 carries. You give him the ball. Edwards is not as explosive as he was, a couple years ago before he suffered all the knee injuries.
So what's his yardage total? I know we don't have any props yet. What's your projection?
For which guy?
I think Mitchell would get. You'd have to think he'd go for like 75 at least. I mean, if Singletary can get 150,
I got to assume the props would probably be somewhere in the 40s or 50s.
I was gonna say like 47.5 would be what.
I was just saying I think he would pick up 75.
Yeah, his props are probably going to be 40 or 50. They'll bump it, but they don't think he's going to get much work. So
yeah, I'm gonna be all over his props. He is so fast, man.
He's good.
He is so fast. If he gets the edge at all, it's over. It's 10 yards.
East Carolina.
Sure. What's that? Yeah,
he went to East Carolina.
He's a Pirate. All right.
All right. Our next game, we got another heavy hitter here. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Cleveland to take on the Browns. The Browns are 4-point favorites, and this total is set at a whopping 36. Chris, who do you like in this one?
First of all, when is Pittsburgh going to fire Matt Canada? This team has been outgained.
Keep winning.
But they've been outgained every single week. They can't move the ball. They benefit because of the defense. I mean, we saw them beat Cleveland the first time this year because they got 2 defensive touchdowns. Kenny Pickett looks like crap. The run game is terrible. The offensive line doesn't block. Freiermuth has been on injury reserve. Deontay Johnson, he's been on a milk carton most of the season. The Steelers are not good offensively. They might as well just if they make the playoffs, they might as well just rename the Coach of the Year award the Mike Tomlin Award because he gets the most out of nothing with that team as far as offense goes. With that said, you're facing a Cleveland team that actually is a good defensive unit, notwithstanding that game with Gardner Minshew because I don't know what the hell happened there. Pittsburgh can't run. They can't throw the ball all that well. Myles Garrett is probably going to terrorize Kenny Pickett all day long. I'm going to take Cleveland in this one, and I'll give the points.
Reichel?
I'm really on the fence for this one because Pittsburgh just finds a way, as Chris said, to BS ways into winning games. But if you remember the first meeting this season, Pittsburgh got 2 defensive touchdowns. Watson was atrocious, and the game still came down to the wire. There's also the game Chubb got hurt in, but of course it is what it is. Point is, the Browns outplayed Pittsburgh for most of it and only won because TJ Watt had a fumble recovery touchdown at the end, and they had a pick 6 on the first play of the game. So I'm going to go with the Browns here. Maybe Watson regained some confidence last week. Maybe he did against Arizona a couple weeks ago. But the point is, if Watson's even average, they should win this game by at least 7 points. Because the first game that they had this year in Pittsburgh was really a game that Cleveland dominated, especially if you look at the yard comparison. Pittsburgh couldn't move the ball. So I'm going to lean to Cleveland in this spot. I'm hoping for their sake that they ended up getting a little bit better quarterback play moving forward because Watson, I don't believe, had an incompletion in the entire second half against Baltimore's defense. I'm going to go with the Browns here. I get if you want to take Pittsburgh because they're getting points, but they are better at home than on the road. And it is going to be a road game in Cleveland. And the dog pound get kind of the spark that they need for the Browns to actually win this game. Give me the Browns to cover, and they win by 7. I'll lean to the under, though. No chance taking over with the Matt Canada offense.
Steamroller?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think Watson was 13 for 13 in the second half, if I remember right. Pretty good half.
Against Baltimore?
What's that?
Against Baltimore's elite defense?
Yeah, exactly. I think Chris sounds a little bitter there about Pittsburgh being in the playoff because he knows.
I think he's annoyed at Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh's the opposite of his team because they can't move the ball, but they win games. His team can move the ball, but they can't win games.
Yeah, he knows.
Bizarro Bills.
If the playoffs started this week, he'd be at home watching Pittsburgh play. And,
you can join me.
Well, I mean, you look at Pittsburgh. I mean, look at their offense. 29th in passing touchdowns. They've got 7.
No, they're outgained in every game. It's an
and it's not even close. They haven't had 400 yards in 2 or 3 years.
Ever since Canada's been employed, they haven't had 400 yards in a game.
I think it's funny that Buffalo is 8th in points on offense, 5th in points on defense, and 10th in the playoff picture.
Yep.
That's absurd.
Well, turnovers will do that to you. I mean, they've
not good. As far as this game goes, It's another dandy, no question about it. This is, believe it, we talked about it. There's huge playoff implications for both of these teams right now. They're both tied 6-3 in the 4 or 5 or 5-6 spot there in the playoffs. Scott talked a little bit about that first game, and it was a bad break fiasco for Cleveland. This is a Cleveland team that ran the ball up and down against the quote unquote elite Pittsburgh defense. Chubb got hurt. He had 10 carries before he got hurt. Between him and Ford, they went 26 carries for 170 yards. That's 6.5 per, and that ain't too shabby. Browns did turn the ball over. Hit four turnovers. Now, Browns still like to turn the ball over. They've had 8 turnovers in the last 5 games. However, 5 of those 8 turnovers were courtesy of P.J. Walker. As we've talked about, P.J. Walker is relegated once again to clipboard duty while Deshaun Watson does his thing and tries to massage the numbers a bit. I'm going to go with the consensus here.
Well played.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, there you go.
Wasn't worth a stop, but it was.
I needed to acknowledge it.
I appreciate it. Browns -4 at home. I think that's a very good number for the Browns. I think this is very possibly a double-digit win for the Clevelanders. Give me the Browns here.
All right. So all 3 of you are on the Browns, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna lone wolf it here. I'm gonna take the Steelers +4. I understand what you guys are saying. Their offense is terrible. The numbers are terrible. Their defense isn't though, and Mike Tomlin isn't either. I saw a quote from him earlier this morning. He was talking about him and Kenny Pickett, and he said, "I don't really care what the numbers look like. We just look to win," and that's what they've been doing, and they continue to do it. I think it's going to be ugly. I think this is going to be a really low-scoring game. It's going to be another close division battle, but I'm going to take the Steelers +4 as I just see it be a very close game until the end.
I mean, just looking back at that first meeting, Pittsburgh had 9 first downs.
I was saying, like, what was the offensive yards per game there? Because they got gifted 2 defensive.
Well, I was
Yeah,
going
they got outgained 408 to 255.
but that can be deceiving when you score defensive touchdowns because your offense doesn't have those possessions.
I get it.
I'm not going to defend the
9
Pittsburgh
first
offense.
downs is 9 first downs.
I'm not going to defend the Pittsburgh offense. I'm just saying when you throw stuff like that out in a game with 2 defensive touchdowns, that has to be factored in.
They ran the ball 20 times for 55 yards.
That's not ideal.
Yeah,
Didn't they have like 70 yards on one play from a Pickens touchdown?
Yeah, 71 yards.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. No, that'll be interesting. That'll be definitely one of those games where it'll come on red zone maybe 2 or 3 times, and I'll be like, oh yeah, they're playing, but don't think I'll be turning that one
Mason,
on.
Why can't you design us a graphic with a wolf on it, or like a howling wolf noise?
Definitely.
Scott, I can't believe of all my sound effects, we never used a howling wolf.
Yeah, you could have
I don't
gotten
think we
that
ever needed
from the NWO Wolfpack, you know.
I don't even know that we have to go that far. But
and back to Keaton Mitchell real quick, since we were talking about it, they don't have a number up for him yet. They have numbers for Mixon and Edwards and Lamar and
That'll be like a last-second number, Ed, if they even put it up.
Keep your eyes open.
well, that's more people up already than I would have thought on Tuesday.
Agreed.
Yeah, I was just checking it out. It's they've got Mixon at between 54.5 and 55.5. Gus Edwards is 45.5 at PointsBet and 47.5 everywhere else. Lamar Jackson is between 42.5 and 45.5. And then they've got Burrow on there just for the hell of it, I guess. He's at 12.5.
Well, there you go. Oh, let's try this.
I'll say the next game we have on the schedule, there could be some interesting props as well, as we've got some popular teams after the last week. The Arizona Cardinals are traveling to Houston to take on the Texans. The Texans are 4-point favorites, and this total set at 48. Chris, who do you like in this one?
That line shifted quick because it opened at 6. I guess people are excited that Kyler Murray's back, and he actually utilized guys like Trey McBride. My concern with Arizona is the same concern that we've had all season long, is that they're not very good. We just saw Houston. Now they could be primed for a letdown after picking up 544 yards against Cincinnati last week. But Arizona is a team that, surprisingly, they're only a -3 in takeaway giveaway, which really surprised me when I look at it, because you watch how badly they lose half these games, and you think that they'd be minus like 12. I like Houston at home here. I think that Murray's still getting used to it, to being back out there. He didn't throw a touchdown, and I did like that Clayton Tune got in the game so he could, sneak it in the third quarter, because they're like, well, we're not going to pull him a Mahomes and stick him in there and have him try to sneak like they did against Denver a few years ago. I'll take Houston. I think they'll cover. I think that the Arizona's secondary won't be able to keep up with Schultz and Brown and Robert Woods, and Tank Dell has been really impressive as a rookie as well. And I don't think they can generate enough of a pass rush to rattle Stroud here. So I'll take Houston at home.
Reichel?
Yeah, for me, I think it's pretty telling the line's already shifted this many points. I think I'm going to lean to Arizona. Like, I don't feel great about it, but I do think Houston is in a very good letdown spot, which we brought up before. We saw them lose to, for example, Carolina earlier this year, so this team isn't a world beater, but of course they're solid. Stroud's very good. But I just think at the end of the day, when you're looking at this matchup, I think that it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm not sure if I trust either defense. I don't know how many of Arizona's stats actually matter, because they were using fake quarterbacks for the. Well, I mean, Dobbs.
You can't call Dobbs a fake quarterback.
I can't. That's why I fixed it. But they were punting second halves every week. It's just how it went. They were getting killed at halftime, but they were hanging in there for the first half of games. The point is, I think Kyler is still an upgrade, and they looked pretty good against Atlanta. Atlanta might not be a good team because Arthur Smith's a bad coach. Defensively, they're pretty good, though, and I thought that Kyler looked fine his first game back. I like the over as my favorite play in this game because I don't trust either defense, but I think I am going to lean to Arizona. It just feels pretty telling that the markets immediately responded to this line by hammering the Cardinals after the Texans won a road game in Cincinnati. It just feels like it's kind of baiting you to take the Texans. Maybe I'm going to fall forward, but maybe I won't. I'm going to lean to the Texans. I'm going to lean to the Cardinals here. This line movement feels very weird to me, and I think Arizona can hang offensively. I'll lean to Arizona. I'll be different.
Steamroller?
Yeah, this is a very different team with Murray healthy and with Connor healthy. You know, they've been missing Connor for a good portion of this season as well. He looks like he's back at 100%. I think that's the first note I had written is huge letdown spot for this young Houston team. The thing that you guys have already touched on. I think that's exactly right. I think I don't hate your over. I think there's gonna be some points in this game. I don't think there's gonna be a lot of pass rush generated on either side, but I do think Houston. I think they're the Colorado of the NFL right now. Everybody's all of a sudden the Houston's 500, and they're looking at Stroud as a possible MVP, and they're looking at Houston touchdown Super Bowl odds. And I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit there. They've shown themselves to be able to beat anybody, but they've also shown themselves to be able to lose to anybody. See Carolina. In a game where they just couldn't get much going at all, and were insufferable inside the red zone. So I think this Cardinals team is. I'm with Reichel, and I had that before. I hadn't checked the line movement on this, but knowing that the line has moved that way this early in the week makes me feel like I'm on the right side. I'm going to miss a little CLV, but that's all right. I'll still take the 4 as long as it's more than a field goal. I'll lap that up.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I would say myself, I'm going to take the over 48 in this game. I think Kyler Murray's reemergence with this Cardinals offense, they were decent. They looked decent this last week, but I think with another week under their belt at practice, they're going to continue to move the ball. I don't trust this Texans defense. They struggled in the secondary against the Bengals, and I just don't trust them in this spot. Again, I think, like you guys said, it's a letdown spot. Their defense are going to give up a few big plays. CJ Stroud, I do expect him to make a few big plays himself. He's been playing really well, but I just don't trust either of these defenses. So I'm going to take the over 48.
My son's got a. I don't know if you guys saw it on Twitter. I think he's got a 75-1 CJ Stroud MVP ticket.
Well, that'd be a nice little cash for him.
For the record, I don't think there's any chance in hell he wins the MVP, but he's going to run away with Rookie of the Year.
I'll tell you what, he's got an awful weak schedule coming up. He could make some hay. They've offered him a 7-1 cash out or some shit. I think his cash out's going to be. I think you pull the plug in a month.
Yeah. As a rookie was Marino a rookie
when he won MVP?
Yeah,
he might have been because it's the year they went to the Super Bowl.
That's what I thought. Was he a rookie? Because I'm trying to think of
anybody's
done
Brown is the only rookie to ever win NFL MVP.
So I guess Marino. Not Marino. I guess Marino wasn't the.
Marino went to the Super Bowl in his second year because they went in '84.
Right.
He was drafted in '83.
Did he play in his rookie year?
Yeah.
So the point is that ever since the Super Bowl era, it's never happened.
Correct.
So I'm not picking it to happen, but it's a great story. He's great.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the fact that Mahomes is a co-MVP favorite right now is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I just don't think there's
absolutely fucking ridiculous.
Just to clarify, Marino was third in rookie or an MVP voting in '83 behind Eric Dickerson and the winner Joe Theismann.
So Dickerson set the all-time rushing record, and they didn't give it to him?
Dickerson didn't set the all-time rushing record in '83.
Oh, okay.
He ran for 1,800 yards. I want to say it was, 84 or 85?
85 is right. He does a hell of a 3-year run that he had there.
Yeah, 84 he ran for it, and he didn't win the MVP then either.
Okay.
Tough crowd.
Because he lost to Marino.
With our next matchup, we got the Los Angeles Chargers. They're a 3-point favorite this week, traveling to Green Bay to take on the Packers. This total set at 44. Chris, who you liking this one?
Well, we just watched the Chargers put up 38 points and lose. Meanwhile, we watched the Packers find a way to lose another one. Is anybody convinced that Jordan Love is going to be the quarterback for Green Bay going forward after this season?
No. I think he'll be on a different team.
So a wasted first-round pick there by a team that really can't afford to waste first-round picks. Herbert, what can you say about the Chargers? The offense is still good, even though they don't have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen's been hurt and Austin Eckler missed a month. But they still score points. The biggest concern that I have with the Chargers is they can't stop anybody. Fortunately, in this case, they don't have to worry about it because Green Bay hasn't scored more than 20 points since week 2. I'm going to take the Chargers on the road. I know that playing in the weather of Green Bay, at least it's only November. It's not December. It's not going to be the Ice Bowl up there.
48 and sunny, buddy.
There you go. So it's not going to be too bad of weather there. I'll take the Chargers. I can't trust Jordan Love. I can't trust their young receiving core that reminds me of watching the movie Necessary Roughness. And I said this to my wife last night when Gabe Davis dropped that pass that got intercepted. I turned around and said, I feel like Robert Loggia in Necessary Roughness where he goes, "Don't throw it to stone hands." And that's basically what Green Bay's offense is. They have a bunch of guys that can't catch the ball to save their lives. Christian Watson still drops passes too often.
Does your wife enjoy your quips as much as we do?
I'm trying to wonder how many people are going to get that reference.
If they watch Necessary Roughness, they would.
That's what I'm saying. But
it was a good movie.
Robert Loggia, I mean, that's...
Yeah, she's actually seen the movie.
That's a throwback.
Okay.
I think the Chargers will win this game. I just can't trust Green Bay. They should win the game by 7 to 10 points. The Packers just are horrible on offense.
Reichel?
Yeah, it's always tricky to take a dome team playing outdoors in the cold in the middle of November, but it's not, once again, as cold as it's going to be in Wisconsin in about a month. But we talk about how Staley's a terrible coach all the time. I don't think LaFleur's any good either, for the record. So you can make an argument that the coaches are close in this game. The rosters are not close. The Chargers are a better team on paper, but they can't stop anybody anyway. Then again, you can make the argument that they were they were a 4th down stop away from beating Detroit in that game. And Detroit's one of the better teams in the NFC. So you can make an argument that the Chargers are, the better team by a decent amount. So I'm going to lean to the Chargers. I do think that they have too many weapons. I don't trust LaFleur with Jordan Love in the first half of games in particular. But I do think it's going to be close because Staley forces games to be close because he can't coach. But I do think that the Chargers have the better quarterback, the better weapons. On paper, they got a lot of defensive talent. It doesn't work, but they have talent. I'm going to lean to the Chargers. I understand once again that the Chargers are not a fun team to bet on, but neither is Green Bay. So I'll go with the Chargers. I think that they're going to get the job done.
Steamroller?
2 weeks, we're going to play a new game. We're going to do a shot every time Reichel says he hates a coach or a coach is bad.
That was 2 shots because I think both LaFleur and Staley are really
so far, we've had Harbaugh, he's a terrible coach. Arthur Smith.
I didn't say he was a terrible coach. I just said that him and Lamar choke games 3-4 times a year.
But you did say Arthur Smith.
Arthur Smith
is a bad coach. I will die on that hill.
So I think there's 3 shots already. I posit that there's still a 4th, but yeah, we're
plenty of games to go.
Yeah, and we're what 30 minutes
Yeah.
in. Yeah, you're gonna be drunk. You're gonna be doing 6-7 shots in an hour, no question about it. What coach do you like
In the NFL or in general?
This is gonna be a short list.
In the NFL.
So, out of the list of games we're going to cover, I think McDaniel is a solid coach. I think Dan Campbell's a solid coach. Is Vrabel a good coach? I'm not even sure. But yeah, as of right now, I got a solid 2 that I really like.
Quick reminder, folks: 9 games today, 18 teams. Reichel thinks 2 have good coaches
That I really like. Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Definitely not Ron Rivera. So
I got to tell you, I hate both of these teams so much. These teams are just awful. I can't believe Staley is still at this side of the ground as far as his coaching career goes. It is just astounding that they will not cut bait with this cat.
What do you think? What do you think the prop is on Staley going for it on 4th down in his own territory?
Well, and see, now he's gotten overly conservative. Now he's gone almost the other way, where he'll punt from the 40.
So now
but don't forget, against Minnesota earlier this year, he did go for it on 4th down at his own 20 when he was leading in the game, and
did that against the Raiders too, and it didn't work. Is the issue the play calling, or the fact that Herbert, for a guy his size, is one of the worst QB sneakers of all time?
He has no vision. He just falls over the center, and hopefully.
I'm just saying, people can talk about it all the time, but Herbert, for a guy that size, is such an abysmal QB sneaker, and it just doesn't get talked about.
Man, you watch Russ sneak, and he's a small guy. He's what 5'10", 5'11".
Drew Brees, one of the better QB sneakers of all time. He was what 6'1", 6'2".
They find the gap, Yeah. So this is an LA Chargers defense that's bad, but they're even worse than their stats would appear. Because if you look them up, you see, well, they're 24th in the league. They give up 23.9 points per game. That's not ideal. However, against teams with the pulse, they've played 6 games and they've given up 32.2 points per game. If any defense can bring Green Bay to life, it's the Chargers, absolutely. And Scott touched on it earlier. The Chargers have been scoring points, 95 points over the last 3. I'm going to count on this terrible Chargers defense to be able to drag Green Bay along just enough. Take this one over the total. I'm thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of 47 or 27-20 for the Chargers puts this one over the total of 44. I'm stepping out there. I'm going to take the over in a Green Bay game. How about that?
A reminder, by the way, that Staley was a defensive coordinator, and the main flaw with this team is the defense. So what exactly does he do on this team?
He stands around.
Check.
Yeah, makes a lot of money. That's another good one. Another guy that's making a lot of money after having a solid coaching season last year. Won't say the same this year. The Giants, Brian Dable, are going to
Wait. We didn't get your pick.
Oh, yeah. My pick. Well, my pick's not crazy here. Chargers -3, as I simply don't trust the Packers offense. I think Love stinks. And I think,
Great
like
song,
I said
by the way.
earlier,
Yeah, the Jay Giles band sang that.
Adam Sandler.
I prefer Adam Sandler's version.
Fine version by Adam Sandler as well. Yeah.
I was going to say Adam Sandler is the GOAT probably. But yeah, Chargers -3. I'll keep that one short, and I'll carry it to our next game. The Giants, they're traveling to Washington to take on the Commanders. Washington's a 10-point favorite. I can't believe I'm saying that. And the total set at a whopping 37.5. Chris, who do you like in this one?
I like the fact that this game won't be televised where I live. So,
it's going to be blocking other games from being televised where I live. So,
well, that's your problem.
The devolution will not be televised.
Yeah,
There's going to be like 5 people that get that. They're going to fucking laugh their ass off.
I don't know if Washington should be favored by double digits over anybody, but I guess if there was going to be a team, it would be a team led by Tommy DeVito at quarterback. Personally, I'd rather see Danny DeVito play quarterback at this point. The big story last weekend was talking about how DeVito lives at home, and so he doesn't have to cook, and his mom makes his bed and everything else. Well, he looked like a little league player last week. They got completely obliterated by Dallas. Washington, what can you say about them? Other than the fact that
I think Hal's fine. We had this conversation a couple weeks ago. Hal's okay.
Yeah, they hang close in games. They've lost in overtime to the Eagles, and they lost in a one-possession game to them, too. They lost to Seattle by 3 this past week. Howell looks good for the most part, except, he's got his brains beaten in. He's been sacked 47 times. On the plus side, he won't have to worry about that here because the Giants can't rush the passer, especially after trading Leonard Williams. I'm going to have to hold my nose and say that Washington covers the line just because I don't know if the Giants can get to 10. You look at this season, even when they had Daniel Jones or Tyrod Taylor, they've already had 4 games this season where they've been held to 9 points or less, and they've gone over 17 points once. And that was against Arizona back in week 2. I'll take Washington and hope that the game doesn't magically get flipped on because there's a blowout in whatever game they're going to show here.
Reichel, who do you like in this one?
I guess I got to lean to the Commanders. I guess. I don't know. I don't feel great about laying 10, but I thought about it in the middle of the second quarter of this Giants and Cowboys game. And shout out to the Giants, though, for actually scoring 17 points in that game. But the Giants with DeVito might be one of the worst teams on paper that I've seen in a long time. They are awful. It's just looking at the roster on paper. Now with all the injuries as well, Thibodeau is one of their only good pass rushers. He got a concussion, so he didn't play the second half, basically. They're awful. Like, they're just so bad. I don't think they're going to win another game for the rest of the season. I'll go on record and say that. They do play New England in a couple weeks ago, which is going to be a very fun tank bowl, so get excited for that one.
That game will be 3-2.
Yeah, you might get Malik Cunningham versus DeVito, which would be an interesting matchup, but I'm going to lean to Washington. I think Howell's fun. I know that Steehn and I have kind of disagreed in the past about Howell, but I think he's okay for a young quarterback. They have some weapons. I understand Ron Rivera is not a good coach. Dable, I don't know if he's actually good or not because this team on paper is a disaster, and the fact that he went to the playoffs last year was a miracle. But I do think looking at the spot, Washington's going to be at home. They've been competitive. They hung with Seattle on the road last week. They almost won that game. But I do think looking at the spot, I really do think the Giants on paper are, at this point in time, they're the San Jose Sharks of the NFL. They are awful. I think they're the worst team by a country mile. I'll take Washington. I think Rivera is a bad coach, but I'm not sure if he's this bad. I think they'll win the game. I'll lean to Washington at home -10.
So you got to roast Dable and Ron Rivera.
I was a little bit generous with Dable, though, because I still can't believe he took that team to the playoffs last year.
All right. That's fair. All right. So only 1.5 coast roast for that one.
Rivera's just objectively bad.
This Giants offense is historically bad. They are on track to be the lowest scoring NFL team since 2009. For bonus points, can anybody tell me who that team was in 2009? NFC.
NFC. Okay.
NFC.
2009.
Get away from your computer, Chris.
I'm trying to think.
I mean, I'm not going to have any idea. I got to think of who the really bad teams were.
NFC West.
I was going to guess the Rams.
The Rams are correct. Rams scored 10.8 points per game.
I don't know why the Rams came to my mind, but that sounded right because they were bad.
Well, there's only 4 teams in the West, so.
No, I'm saying like even before he said West, I was leaning Rams for some reason. I don't even know.
I was thinking about the Lions just because they were terrible during that stretch.
To be fair, it was probably worse for the Rams because at least they played in a dome, and they were they in a dome when they had the worst offense, arguably of all time.
I love when we do Giants games because I get to trot out my favorite stat. If you throw out the 31 points they had in the second half against Arizona, this Giants team is averaging 9.16 points per game. That is just dreadful. It's a weird. They're a weird team. They're 12th in plays. They're 14th in turnovers. They don't turn the ball over all the time, but they are dead last in yards per play and 31st in first down. So they'll run some plays. They just don't do much.
Well, they can't throw. They don't have any receivers, and even if they did, they don't have a quarterback.
They don't have a quarterback to get it to them. And Howell is having a sneakily good season, number 1 in the NFL in passing yards. However, just number 20 in yards per attempt. So a lot of dinks and dunks. But you know what? That means he's finding his checkdowns. He's doing what he can to avoid getting killed. Doesn't do enough of it because he's still getting killed. And this is a Washington team that likes to throw the football. They are number 1 in the NFL in pass attempts. I don't see any other way to play this. I hate to do it, but I just have zero faith in this Giants team. Give me the Commanders minus double digits.
I know
But
this
that should-
team's beaten to hell and back. At some point, you got to promote another practice squad quarterback, right? I mean, I don't know how much longer.
I thought they were going to promote Matt Barkley.
I'm just saying, like, at some point, we know DeVito can't play. We've seen him for about 2.5 weeks. He can't play the game. Like, I don't know what the point is if you want to keep sending him out there unless you're actively trying to lose, which I don't think they are, because Dable might get fired because New York's pretty impatient with coaches, especially with the media. You can't send DeVito back out there, right? I mean, we know what he is. He might be the worst quarterback in the league.
I'll tell you, Tommy DeVito sounds like one of those characters they introduced in Goodfellas as the girl came into the bar for the first time. You know,
Yeah.
Johnny 2 times, there's touchdown Tommy DeVito. You know.
So is it a coincidence or not that he sounds like a character's name that would be killed off halfway through the movie?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's no way in a gangster movie Tommy DeVito survives to the end. No question about it.
But
That's
yeah,
heist gone bad right there, my friend.
yeah. To Steen's point about Howell hitting his checkdowns, some of that is the fact that he doesn't have time to throw the ball deep because they can't protect him.
Yeah.
I mean, 47 sacks. He gets sacked 10.6% of the times he drops back. When you're getting sacked 1 out of 10 plays or 1 out of 9 plays, you know,
Yeah.
sooner or later you're going to be dumping it off, like we saw those 2 dump offs to Brian Robinson that went for over 100 yards Sunday.
You've got to be able to run the football. You've got to be able to develop a running game to keep that monster pressure off of it. You're gonna kill the kid.
It's going to be David Carr all over again.
This is one for Chris. As they said in Field of Dreams, watch out you don't get killed out there.
That's right.
I always like seeing his face when you throw a quote that he likes. He always gives you the little smirk that you can't see.
That's right.
But the Commanders minus 10, yeah, I don't love it, but I'm gonna go with you guys on this one. And I think you covered that the Giants offense stinks. I don't have to reiterate that. But their defense, they're still giving up 7.3 pass yards per play, which ranks them 29th in the NFL. I think that Howell might have a chance to actually throw the ball downfield this week, which could help them. And I just don't trust this Giants defense either. They're bad on both sides of the ball. And, yeah, I'm going to stick with the home team, and I'm going to lay the 10 points.
Am I wrong, by the way, for saying the Giants are the worst team in the league? I know that there are teams with worse records, but if you took Carolina right now against DeVito with the Giants with all the injuries they have, and you put them on a neutral, Carolina's got to be favored, right?
Gotta think so. Gotta think they're
So I think the Giants are the worst team in the league.
Yep.
With our next matchup, we got another division battle. The Tennessee Titans are traveling to Jacksonville. The Jaguars are 6.5-point favorites, and this total is set at 40. Chris, who are you picking in this one?
First, do we even know who's going to play quarterback for Tennessee? I know they say Tannehill was questionable last week, and then they still decided to stick with Will Levis. How long are they going to give a leash to this kid when, you know, they've done pretty much nothing offensively the last 2 weeks? You lost to Pittsburgh.
To be fair, their division's actually difficult, so you can make an argument they might as well let the young guy play because the odds of them making the playoffs are slim to none at this point.
Well, but, you know, they still have Jacksonville twice, so if Tannehill were to come back and they win those 2 games, you tighten things up considerably.
I'm just saying, I think Levis probably starts this game, if I had to guess.
And you look at Jacksonville, they looked horrible last week. You know, everybody was talking about the demise of the 49ers because they had lost 3 straight games, and they just took Jacksonville out behind the woodshed and knocked the crap out of them. They turned it over 4 times. They got outgained basically by a 2-1 margin. They had 12 first downs. You know, for as good as Jacksonville's been, they're prone to turn the ball over. They've turned it over 17 times this season. The one thing that's a plus for them is that they're a +1 still in takeaway giveaway because they've benefited from some big games where they've had multiple takeaways. I just can't trust Tennessee after the last couple of weeks. I don't really like the fact that the line's almost a touchdown, but since it's staying under 7, I'll take Jacksonville at home. Don't necessarily like it, though. Now that I said that, Derrick Henry will have one of his vintage games where he'll go for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Tennessee will win 47-6 or something like that.
Reichel, who do you like in this one?
I think I'm going to lean to Jacksonville. I know in division games it's pretty difficult to lay more than 6 points, but Tennessee is an objectively bad team, I think. I mean, the quarterback's been atrocious. Derrick Henry did nothing last week, but in general, Henry's been okay. He's clearly lost a step or two, which is fine because of the amount of workload he's had over the last couple of years. But still, the point is, I do think that Tennessee's pass defense is still not great. It's been an issue for years. The Jaguars were on fire before the bye week. Then the bye week came at the worst time possible when your team's actually rolling, and they no-showed a home game against the Niners, who really needed it. So I was not totally shocked that the Niners won the game. The margin was a bit surprising, but I did think the Niners would win that game. I think it's a good bounce back spot for the Jaguars. The Titans lost to Tampa, who gave up 500 plus yards, or no, 470 yards to Stroud, and Levis couldn't move the ball. So I do think Jacksonville is a lackluster pass defense. Isn't going to get torched in this game because Levis isn't good enough to actually torch it. But I'm going to go with Jacksonville. They're still a good team. I'm still picking them to win the division. But I do think with them no-showing that last game at home against the Niners, it's a good spot for Peterson to get his guys up for Tennessee. I know Vrabel's a good coach and all, but this team just doesn't have the weapons. And I think that this team on paper is significantly worse than Jacksonville. I'll take Jacksonville minus 6.5.
Steamroller, how about you in this one?
Yeah, I don't love it, but I'm going to have to go with the Jags too. This is the Tennessee team that is the very definition of one-dimensional. You stop the run, you stop Tennessee. Tampa Bay showed how it was done last week as they gave up 42 yards in 16 carries. Levis went 19 for 39 with a couple of picks. Tampa Bay 6th against the run. Jacksonville is 8th. I think that this Tennessee team is going to have a hard time getting anything going via the ground against the Jaguars. And I think it's I don't care who it is, Levis, Tannehill, Malik Willis, the ghost of Vince Young. I don't give a shit. I don't think any of those quarterbacks are going to do a damn thing in this game. Yeah, I don't love it, but you've got to go with what you think is going to be the best version, and I think that's going to be the Jaguars here. Give me them minus the 6.5. Grab it before it turns into 7.
Yep, and I hate doing this now that we're all on it, but I got the Jags minus 6.5 as well. They're holding their opponents to 3.8 rushing yards per carry. If they can do that against the Titans, which I think they will, as this is definitely a big bounce back spot for them. They were dominated by a very good 49ers team last week. Now they're going to reset. They're going to slow down an old Derrick Henry and force Levis or any of the other quarterbacks we've named to beat them, and I just simply don't see that happening. So, yeah, I'm going to take the Jaguars minus 6.5. In our next game, we got another large spread, double-digit spread. The Chicago Bears, they're traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions. The Lions are 10-point favorites, and this total set at 47. Chris, who do you like in this one?
Well, I guess the good news, if you're a Bears fan, is they say Justin Fields is throwing the ball again. Doesn't mean he's going to play this week. Badgett, I know we ripped on him a couple weeks ago because he played a D2 and ran into the Chargers and got beat up on a Sunday night and then lost to the Saints. But he's led them to 2 wins. That's one more win than Justin Fields put up in the first 6 weeks of the year.
He actually helped improve their number 1 draft pick probability by beating the Panthers. So,
that's true.
There's that.
But you're probably facing a Detroit team that, since Thanksgiving last year, they've really turned it around. They finished last year hot. They started this year solid 7-2. They had that overtime loss to Seattle, and then they were blown out by Baltimore a few weeks ago. But we just watched them put up 533 yards against the Chargers. The Bears defense, you can point out how they're number 2 in rushing yards allowed, and they lead the league in yards per attempt allowed at 3.2. But you know why that is? Because everybody's just turning around and handing the ball off so they can fall down and run out the clock because the Bears are 3-7. Here you're facing a Lions team where we watched Gibbs and Montgomery carve up the Chargers on the ground. They run the ball pretty well. I think they're 4th in the league in rushing yards this season with 1,251. They scored 14 touchdowns on the ground. They're playing at home. You got St. Brown. You've got Laporta, who's been great at tight end. The Bears don't have enough weapons. They're banged up on defense. Tremaine Edmonds has been hurt. Their defensive line is non-existent. I'll take the Lions to win this one. They should win by 14, 17 points at least, if not more, because the Bears just they're not good offensively.
Reichel?
Yeah, add Eberflus to the list. I think he's a terrible coach too. But I'm going to take the Lions in this spot. I think that the Lions, it's a good spot for them because even though they won last week, the defense wasn't good. So there's no reason to overlook the Bears. I actually think there's a decent amount of coachable moments for this team during the upcoming week. They're going back home, which definitely helps. The Bears are bad. There are worse teams out there. I think you can make the argument that Badgett winning that game might maybe buy him another week, which isn't good for the Bears in this spot. But I'm going to go with the Lions. They're better at everything. I can't think of one thing the Bears are actually better at than the Lions at this point. But Jared Goff, is he the most underrated quarterback in the league this year? It kind of feels like it. It's been really good. It's been really, really good. They got a good ground game. They got a good offensive balance. The defense is not great, but the defensive line's good. And the Bears aren't really great at pass protection. So I'm going to go with the Lions here. I think Bryce Young is, at this point in his career, an abysmal quarterback. And you still only won by 3 in the Thursday night game. That doesn't really tell me much about the Bears being good. That just tells me that the Panthers are slightly worse. The Lions are light years better than this team. They should be motivated against division rival. And the Vikings keep winning, so they have not officially run away with the division yet. So these games actually matter. Give me the Lions via destruction. I'll take the Lions by 17.
Steamroller?
Yeah, I'm on it as well. You hate laying double digits anytime, but if you look at double-digit favorites, they've actually got a pretty good mark against the spread, especially below 13 and below. Chicago is a team that just can't stop turning the ball over. Scott, are you saying that it was a bad thing that Badgett gets to play another week because the option would be who? We talked about
Justin Fields, who's not good either.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if Fields isn't healthy, what's the other option?
I was like half joking, but I'm saying just in general, maybe they're not going to rush Fields back because Badgett won a game against the worst team, against one of the worst teams in the league. I was half joking.
All right, well,
the point is, I don't think Badgett's good. It's not his fault. I mean, nobody thought he'd actually be playing this year, but I think the Lions are going to get after him.
It's Nathan Peterman is the other option. So let's pump the brakes on my boy from Shepherd University. Come on now.
I respect them for trying. That's all I'm saying.
Go Herders. Lions best cover team in the NFL, guys. 7-2 against the spread. The only team that is 7-2. And they are even better against shitty teams. They have covered the spread by an average of 7.6 points per game against terrible teams. I think the Bears can certainly fit into that one. Chris, I'm curious. I've never seen anybody justify a low rushing yards per average because the teams are kneeling down too much. Apparently, they go to victory formation sometime in the middle of the third quarter.
I think
I'm talking you're handing off fullback dives and everything else.
Yeah. I don't. I think that Dan Campbell won't let them let down because, as Scott talked about, though they won the game, they had a terrible defensive performance against the Chargers. I think Campbell's got a lot of things to fix, a lot of things on his mind. The Bears just another one of those teams you can't play. Every once in a while they jump up and bite you, and if they do, you tip your cap. But I've got to go with the far superior team right here.
Yep. If I was going to take a side, I would definitely lean towards the Lions. But with this pick, I'm actually going to go with the total here. I'm going to take the under 47. Like you guys said, I don't trust this Chicago offense at all. I think they're going to continue to struggle. And this Detroit defense, they're holding their opponents to 3.71 or 3.7 rushing yards per rush, which ranks them fourth in the NFL. But on the other side of it, like Chris was saying, Chicago can also stop the run. They're holding their opponents to 3.2 yards per carry. And I don't think it's because of the kneeling personally. That's just me. But I think that they're going to be able to load the box, stop Montgomery and Gibbs. And like I said, both teams are going to be running the ball, which is going to keep the clock moving. And I see this total staying under 47.
I don't know if the Bears can afford to load the box because the Lions can throw the ball.
That's kind of my point. They'll have good balance, which I think is going to keep the Chicago defense completely screwed the entire game, in my opinion.
Very could happen. And another reason I like the under really is because the Bears, I don't think they can score many points. They're just, like Reichel was saying, they're just bad. They're just not very good. But our next game got a little bit more exciting. We got the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to Miami to take on the Dolphins. Miami's a 12-point favorite, another large spread, and this total set at 46. Chris, who do you like in this one?
I'm also hoping this game is not on TV here because I don't want to watch it. Give the Raiders credit. They've gotten back to 500. They've won 2 straight games under Antonio Pierce. I know that they didn't beat anybody of substance because they beat both teams from New York. They beat the Giants and then the Jets. Going on the road to face Miami is a different animal altogether. I'm not overly convinced that the Raiders are going to be able to slow down Miami's offense. They're 4th worst in the league in rushing yards allowed at 1356. They're 28th in yards per attempt. I know the Dolphins struggled a little bit the last couple of weeks running the ball. They had some issues against Kansas City moving the ball. They struggled against Philadelphia, only ran for 45 yards. They only had 78 against New England. But they're coming off a bye. They might have Achane back for this one. I'm not sure if they're going to play him this week or bring him back next week for Black Friday. But there's just so many weapons on that Miami offense that I don't think Aiden O'Connell and company are going to be able to keep up. I grudgingly will give the points because 12 is a lot. I don't care who you are, and I don't care that Miami has been an explosive offense most of the year. Giving up that many points is tough, but I think playing at home, the Raiders are going to be in trouble here with a rookie quarterback. I'll take Miami minus 12. It wouldn't surprise me if the game goes over the total, and that would probably be where I would lean or hang my hat first. I think Miami will hang at least 30, 31, 34 points in this game and go over.
Reichel?
So just to ask, the streak of Miami not beating a team for over a year, that was over 500 or 500 and above?
Over.
So this doesn't apply?
Correct.
Okay, I'll take Miami by like 30. Looking at this actual spot, the thing is, I really don't feel great taking all of the double-digit favorites in the week. I watched a decent amount of those Raider games against the Giants and the Jets because I just had action on it, so I was watching it. They were at home against 2 of the worst offenses in the league, which makes people believe the Raiders' defense is actually good. It's not. It's not a good defensive unit. I don't think O'Connell's any good either. No offense, because I don't think Garoppolo is that good either. But still, the point is they beat up, or I can't say even beat up. They beat up on the Giants, which doesn't mean anything. And they beat the Jets in a game that they kind of got dominated in for about 2.5 quarters. And the Jets just kept committing holding penalties every time they scored. So they had to keep kicking field goals. Miami off a bye. McDaniels is gonna kill this team. Like I just think Tua is gonna throw it around the parking lot. I could see Tyreek getting loose. I could see Waddle getting loose. If HN plays, that's a big boost out of the backfield. Miami, I think, is going to score 30-plus in this game, and I don't think O'Connell's going to do much. I know Miami's defense isn't great, but off the bye with a good coach, once again, a good coach, I'm adding. I think Pierce might be a good coach, too. So they're off the hook for this one. But I'm going to go with the Dolphins minus the 12. I know that it's a lot, but I really see them winning by 2 touchdowns minimum. This game might be really ugly, but the Raiders won a game on Sunday night. I don't think anybody left that game saying the Raiders, that's a good football team right there. I think they just left going, well, they're not the Jets. So I'm going to go with the Dolphins. At home, I think they're going to bury this team. Give me the Dolphins minus 12.
Steamroller?
I'm on the other side. I'm not gonna lay 3 double-digit dogs in one show. Just not going to do it. Of all the big dogs, I like the Raiders the best here.
I mean, spoiler alert, he's taking
that.
the
I'll
Panthers.
agree with you with. I like the Raiders most of all the 3 dogs that are double digits, but I'm still not taking them.
All right, fair enough. They actually look like a competent team again the last 2 weeks. Now, did they do it against inferior competition? Absolutely. However, the biggest difference has been the use of Josh Jacobs. Last 2 games, he's averaged 107 yards per game. When he was averaging just 50.6 in the first 8 games. I think this is a different Raiders offense. I think they're going to take the pressure off the quarterback position, no matter who's playing there. Yeah, they've got some defensive challenges, but I'm not sure Miami's going to be able to register that many stops. I think Las Vegas is going to have some long possessions, and I think they steal enough possessions, just enough to keep Miami from covering that double-digit spread. I wouldn't be surprised to see Miami win by 9 or 10. I just think 12 is a bridge too far. I'll take the Raiders. If I'm the lone wolf, then so be it.
By the way, I don't have any proof to support it, but I firmly believe Josh McDaniels loses that Sunday night game to the Jets.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I would agree with that.
I have no evidence for that, but that's where I stand.
Reichel hates coaches that are no longer even in the league.
Well, he's getting paid, so I don't feel bad. The severance pay was tremendous. Him and Jimbo should be best friends.
sitting on their yachts wherever they want to be with all their
I
pals.
saw Urban Myers showed his face again.
Yep.
He's been in the studio for a while.
Yep. All right, so everyone's I can't. This one is a really tough one. I'm gonna let Steamroller ride solo on this one. He's the lone wolf. I'm gonna take the Dolphins -12. Like you guys said, the Dolphins coming off a bye. I think they've been game planning all week. I think the party's finally going to come to an end for the Raiders. I've always said it my entire life. The Raiders always Raider. When the biggest games come up, they blow it, and I think that's going to happen here. I think that Tua's going to light them up.
I'm just happy they have a somewhat big game.
Yeah.
Season was over 2-3 weeks ago.
Exactly. Decent. They're being talked about still. But, yeah, I just don't trust the Raiders. I can't do it. So I'm taking the Dolphins -12 here. And with our final game of this early slate on Sunday, we've got the Dallas Cowboys. They're a 10.5-point favorite going on the road against the Carolina Panthers. Total set at 42. Chris, what do you like in this one?
Unfortunately, this game's on TV here because of the fact that Carolina's, they have training camp about half an hour from here, and the Falcons are off. So I'll be stuck seeing this game on Fox. The plus part is it'll probably be out of hand early because Carolina is horrible on the offensive side of the ball. Reichel touched on it earlier when we were talking about the Bears. They scored just 13 points against a Chicago team that doesn't really scare anybody on defense. Meanwhile, we're looking at a Cowboys team that rang up 640 yards of total offense last week as they destroyed the Giants. It didn't matter.
They played an FCS school. That doesn't count.
What do you call Carolina?
Very bad FBS. They're like Virginia.
I would take Furman over Carolina right now.
Okay.
But you look here, the Cowboys, they've hung 115 points in the last 3 weeks. They beat up on the Rams. They lost to the Eagles. They beat up on the Giants. They don't really have a look-ahead spot here because they play Washington at home on Thanksgiving. And I have to say, if I'm Sam Howell, I'm not giving thanks for the fact that I've got to deal with Micah Parsons next week. I don't trust Carolina. I've watched too many of their games where they either start strong like they did against Miami and then get blown out. I know they had the upset win over Houston. Dallas isn't going to overlook them the way Houston did. Sure, Mike McCarthy will find ways to screw up drives where they're destined to get points and then come up with nothing, but they'll have too many opportunities. They'll cover the line. They'll win by, I'm going to say 17 points here.
Well, luckily, I know Reichel's a huge Mike McCarthy fan, so no danger.
I know that's why I had to mention him because I figured he's going to talk about how he's going to mention how he hates him here in a second.
I think he's abysmal in the red zone. As a whole, there might be a little bit too much hate for him because they did win a playoff game last year and they gave the Niners a run for their money. But anyway, I'll let you finish your point. Sorry.
I was going to say Dallas wins this game, and it goes over the total because Dallas will hang 38 by themselves, and since the total is only 42, if Carolina gets in the end zone, you're already safe.
Reichel?
A part of me feels like the Cowboys are going to play with their food again, and this game's just going to be really ugly. The Cowboys are 2-3 on the road. They're 6-3 straight up, so they're really good in Jerry World. They're bad everywhere else. You might remember they lost to the Cardinals this year before Kyler came back. But at the end of the day, I think I actually might lean Carolina here, as crazy as that sounds. Because
it is. You must not have watched much Carolina film this year.
I have watched more than I should. I saw about a quarter. That's more than anybody should. But I think for this one, it really just screams Cowboys letdown spot on the road, which I've seen every year for the last 5 years. They won a home game in blowout fashion against a division team. They have a Thanksgiving game against a division rival up next week, and they have a random game on the road against Carolina in the middle. This just screams a letdown to me. Now, they might win anyway by a decent margin with the letdown because Carolina sucks. But I might give out 3 double-digit favorites. I'm not going to do 4. I think I'm going to lean Carolina. They have extra prep time if that means anything. I don't know if it means anything, but I'll use it because it makes me sound smart. Carolina played Thursday, so they had extra time to prepare for this game. But I've just seen the Cowboys let down in spots on the road for so many years that this has the feeling of one. I'm not picking Carolina to win. I'm not a lunatic. But I think the Cowboys win this game by 10. I think Carolina does enough to hang through the back door. They give up 17 points to DeVito. So I think Carolina can maybe score a couple of touchdowns here. I hope Burns plays, and we'll see what the status is there. But I'll lean Carolina plus the 10.5, and I'll hope for the best. I'm not going to bet it, but I'll lean Carolina.
I mean, and to your point about Dallas being 2-3 on the road, remember the two of those 3 losses were to the the 49ers and the Eagles.
There's a reason why I did not mention the teams that they play on the road. It went against the narrative I was trying to paint. But yes, they did lose to Arizona. But
so let me get this straight. The Raiders are your favorite underdog, but you're not playing them. But you are playing your second favorite underdog.
My favorite underdog is in the team that I like the most getting 10-plus points. I actually like what Pierce has done with the Raiders. They're my favorite team that's getting that many points. I don't like the spot. I think it's a decent spot for Carolina.
That's funny. I'm playing the Cowboys here. Dallas has done a nice job covering big spreads, 3-1 against the number line is 7 or more. Carolina covered exactly one time this season, just once in the game against Houston, where Houston decided to beat Houston again. I don't see it here. I just don't. I know it's a great sandwich spot to pounce all over Carolina, but this is just a dreadful team. I've got to play the Cowboys here. I just won't respect myself in the morning.
What if I told you Frank Reich might take back the play calling responsibilities after about 3 weeks? Does that make you feel any better?
Oh, no, it does not.
Okay. Doesn't make me feel better either.
The only way you would feel better about Carolina is if Frank Reich was playing, because at least, he's won some big games in the NFL. Bryce Young, like you said, he beat Houston because Houston did what Baltimore does and folded up in a game that they should have won. But you look at the rest of the games, and Carolina has had, 2 games where they lost by single digits out of 8?
I picked them to lose by 10, so it doesn't apply. Still cover.
That is threading the needle right there.
Really?
It's going to be 10.
Yeah, by threading the needle, that means you're basically hoping that Dallas only scores 20 points because Carolina is not going to score more than 10.
I think Dallas will be covering in this game. I just think the back door might be open.
Yeah, I like all those back doors. I could see it all happening. I went back and forth here. I really thought about taking the Panthers, but
you're going to pick Dallas. Just do it.
I'm going to be the guy and take Dallas. Yep. Minus 10.5. I think that Tony Pollard finally has a chance to get his run game going this week. I think they're going to establish him.
He was like the only guy who didn't score last week.
Exactly.
I was disappointed that he didn't go over his rushing prop last week.
Yep,
because they kept giving the ball to Rico Dowdle.
Well, I won't bet on him like I did this last week, so he'll hit for everyone else, as that's usually how it goes. But, yeah, I think Dak's playing pretty good right now. The Dallas defense is also very good. I think they're going to shut down the Panthers, and the Cowboys are going to cover another large spread. And that actually wraps up our morning slate of this week's NFL preview show. Pretty solid slate of games, pretty excited. But I did want to remind you guys that all those afternoon games and all those Sunday and Monday primetime games, myself, Chris King, and Scott the Steamroller Steehn all have premium plays on the website available. Mr. Scott Reichel hands out everything for free on Twitter, so make sure you get over there and hand him a follow. And speaking of social media, I wanted to remind you guys all about those links down in the description. Got our TikTok, our Discord, our Twitter, you name it, we got it all. So head over there, give us a follow. We'll continue to give you that free content every single day. Now, Chris King, I know you're cranking out picks all over the place. Where can we find your work?
I don't know about all over the place, but, it seems like the list of games never ends some days. But you can always catch me on Winners and Whiners once in a while. I'll pop up on Stat Salt if something comes up over there. And, of course, Saturday mornings at 9 a.m., which is still way too early. I got a petition to change that, but just parlays with myself. Reichel keeps saying he's going to show up, but he's never up that early because he's taking a nap.
I'm lulling you into a false sense of security.
Or you can catch me on Twitter at Betting Royalty, where I'm not ranting about coaches that I hate, unlike my aforementioned colleague.
You should try it. It's a lot of fun, honestly. It's a lot of fun.
I don't want to infringe on your turf.
Perfect. Well, we can definitely find you there. And you're still writing on the Winners and Whiners website as well. You got those articles?
Oh, yeah.
Sweet.
Every day.
Very good news. How about you, Mr. Reichel? Where else can we find you? Just your Twitter?
Yeah, just on Twitter. You can find me at Reichel Radio. I got a bunch of podcasts too, so they're all linked there. Free pick videos once again have been good, so if you want to check out that, then you're more than welcome to. It is free after all. Besides that, not really much else. If you want to find me in person, I'll be sleeping.
Perfect. And yes, guys, I would definitely advise you guys to check out his free picks. He's been rocking and rolling as of late. It's been very fun to watch. And then the man down in the bottom left corner, the Steamroller. Where can we find your work, Scott?
Well, first of all, I want to say Reichel still has the same running bet. It's a $50 Amazon gift card for anyone who can recite what he says in the first 5 seconds of his videos. If you nail those words exactly, that's a $50 Amazon gift card courtesy of Scott Reichel.
At this point, it's a running bet. It's been that way for like years. I just decided to keep it that way.
You can find me, of course, in the Winners and Whiners expert section if you're looking to get some premium plays from all the different sports that we do. And, of course, you can find me on Twitter/X at Steamroller, just like it says down there, right in the lower left-hand corner. So check me out there. Usually trying to do funny sports takes with mixed results.
One quick thing before we cut out. According to Adam Schefter, T. Higgins is not likely to play this week for Cincinnati. So that'll be a blow to their passing game. I know they've relied a lot on Tanner Hudson early in the game last week. And Andre Iosivas didn't practice yesterday, didn't practice today. He got in the game, I guess, because Higgins didn't play.
Well, how can I back the Bengals without Iosivas? Higgins is one thing, but Iosivas?
I know, exactly. You're going to see a lot more Tanner Hudson.
Oh, man. Well, on that note, you can find all of my work on the Winners and Whiners website. I'm putting out excerpt picks every single day. I also have YouTube videos going up every Friday for each weekend's football games. And you can find me over on the TikTok as we're making parlays, we're attacking trends, and we're winning money left and right. And then you can find me in the Discord as well. We're everywhere as we've been winning a bunch of money there. It's been a blast. So head down there, find those links, and make sure to get you all that free content. And my final reminder before we let you guys go, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you guys can come back next week and catch some more free picks.